Now that we've looked at how to solve systems of linear equations in two variables, we're going to look now at three variables, or three linear equations. So let's take a look at how to solve a system. This might look kind of overwhelming at first, and it is a lot of work, but I find the more organized you can be as you're working through this question, the easier it is. So what I'm looking at here is I have three equations, and I'd like to use a numbering system. It helps me to keep track. And essentially what I want to do is I already know how to solve a system of two equations, and that has two variables, because that's substitution, elimination, graphing that we just worked on. This is three equations, three variables, and so essentially what I want to do in my first couple of steps is to whittle this down to two equations with two variables, because I already know how to deal with that. So how do I go about that? Well, just like I did before, I'm going to look and notice everything's already in the same format. That's what you want. I'm going to compare these columns and say what would be the easiest way to get rid of a variable. Remember, I'm looking for the same number, opposite sign. So I can see that my first column all has the same sign, but they're not huge numbers, so it wouldn't be horrible. My second column already has opposite signs, and if I combined equations 1 and 2 right now, y's would go away. So I'm going to choose that column because I'm lazy and I like to do the least amount of work possible. And this is already going to be a ton of work, guys. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to then combine two equations. We're only going to combine two at a time. So I'm going to combine equation 1 and equation 2. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to recopy. X plus y minus z equals -4. Equation 2, 2x minus y minus z equals -7. X plus 2x is 3x. Y plus -1y cancels, which is what I wanted. Negative z and negative z is -2z. And -4 plus -7 is -11. So that is what we're going to call equation 4. Yay. So what I've done is I've used equations 1 and 2. Now I need to use equation 3 with either one of the other equations. And how I make that choice is this guy's positive and this guy's negative. So I'm going to choose 2 and 3 because I don't have to multiply by negative. But as you can see, these do not have the same number. So how do I make them the same number? I would have to multiply this by 6, which means everything in this equation is going to get multiplied by 6. So I'm going to take 6 times equation 2, 6 times 2, plus equation 3 is going to be my next step. 6 times equation 2. So I'm going to take 6 times 2x, 6 times minus y, 6 times minus z, 6 times -7. So that's 6 times equation 2. Equation 3, notice I'm just taking straight up equation 3. Oops. Really easy to make mistakes, so just take your time. When I combine my two equations together, 12 plus 1 is 13. 6 and -6 cancel. -6 and -2 is -8. -42 and -1 is -43. We're going to call that equation 5. And now I'm essentially solving a system of two equations. When I solve a system of two equations with two variables, I compare x's, and in this case instead of y's, z's. I'm trying to get rid of either 3 and 13 to make those the same number so I can add them together to then eliminate the x's. But 3 and 13 seems complicated. I can look at -2 and -8. That seems a little bit less complicated to me. And so that's the ones I'm going to choose. But notice they're already the same sign and I want them to be different signs. So what am I going to do? I'm going to take this equation here, and if I multiplied it by -4, then I would end up here with a positive 8z in the middle, which is what I want. I want them to be same number, opposite sign. So that's going to be my next step, is I'm going to take negative 4 times equation 4, and I'm going to add equation 5. So if I take negative 4, that would give me negative 12x positive 8z positive 44. And then equation 5, just recopy. 13x minus 8z equals negative 43. Add those together. Negative 12 plus positive 13 is 1x. 8z and negative 8z cancel. 44 plus negative 43 is 1. And so I found my first answer. So now what am I going to do? I have one answer. In order to solve for another variable, I have to just plug 1 back into an equation. But don't try to plug it in back here, because that's not going to help, because I have 3 variables and I just need an equation with 2 variables. So choose this guy or this guy, either one. So I'm going to plug 1 into, I'm going to choose equation 4. It doesn't matter which one you choose. 4 or 5 would be just fine. So I'm going to take 3 times x, which is now 1, minus 2z equals negative 11. So that's 3 minus 2z is negative 11. I'm going to subtract 3 from each side, which is negative 14. I'm going to divide by negative 2. Z is 7. Now that I have 2 of my 3 answers, I'm looking for the third, which is to solve for y. So now that I have 2 answers, now I'm going back up here to my middle, or my original equations, and choose any of those equations. And it doesn't matter, again, which one you choose. So I'm going to choose to plug x equals 1 and z equals 7 into equation 1. So x plus y minus z equals negative 4 is the equation I'm dealing with. X is 1, z is 7, so minus 7. 1 and minus 7 turn into negative 6, so I have y minus 6 equals negative 4. Add 6 to each side, I get y equals 2. So what is my final solution to this question? X is 1, y is 2, z is 7. This is called an ordered triple instead of an ordered pair. That's how we would write the equation. Again, super difficult because it's just a lot of work. I mean, not difficult, just very work intensive. Try to stay as organized as you can to solve these. So let's look at this last example together. I didn't want to do too many. We're not going to focus on systems of 3 equations, but it's good to know how to solve them. So to solve a system of 3 equations, again, number 1, 2, 3. And the first equation already doesn't have a y, and the second equation already doesn't have an x, and the third equation already doesn't have a z. That's not super helpful to me yet. So again, I just have to make a choice. What variable do I want to get rid of? X, y, or z? I'm going to choose to get rid of x just because I decided that. There's no rhyme or reason. So I'm going to choose to eliminate x, and that means that I'm really going to end up using equation 2 just as it is, because 2 already doesn't have an x. So my first step is I'm going to combine equations 1 and 3 together. So 1 and 3, but if you'll notice, if I combined 1 and 3 together just as they are, I'm going to end up with x plus 2x, which is 3x, and that doesn't help me at all. So I need to determine how am I going to get rid of the x's. Well, I would have to take x times negative 2 to make negative 2x and positive 2x. So I'm going to take negative 2 times equation 1. That's negative 2 times x, negative 2 times 3, negative 2 times 4. Equation 3 is 2x minus 4y equals 14. And what happens? These guys cancel, but what happens here in the middle? Y and z are not the same. So this is negative 4y minus 6z equals, if I add those together, I get 6. So how did that help me? Because now equation 2 and equation 3 both have y and z only, which is what I wanted. But again, looking at y and negative 4y, those aren't the same number, opposite sign. 2 and negative 6, not the same number, opposite sign. So choose which one you want to get rid of. I'm going to choose to eliminate y. So I'm going to take, if I want to eliminate y, this is a negative 4. I need this to be positive 4. So I'm going to take 4 times my equation 2 and add it to equation 4, my new equation I just came up with. So 4 times equation 2 would be 4 times y, or 4y. 4 times 2z is 8z. 4 times negative 1 is negative 4. Equation 4, I'm recopying. Negative 4y minus 6z equals 6. Add those together. Y's cancel. 2z equals 2. Z equals 1. Once you find one answer, it kind of just waterfalls. It's really easy. So I'm going to sub z equals 1 into equation 4, because equation 4 already had, x eliminated. You could have put it into equation 2 also, which might be a little bit easier. Actually, let's do that. Less work. Less work, the better, right? So I'm going to sub z equals 1 into equation 2. So that's y plus 2 times z is now 1. Oops, got confused with my 2's and my z's. Y plus 2z equals negative 1. Y plus 2 equals negative 1. Y equals negative 3. Now I'm going to sub that z is 1 and that y is negative 3 into any of my original equations that includes an x, because I'm solving for x, so I have to choose 1 or 3. Let's choose 1. So if I sub, I'm solving for x, there is no y, so I don't have to worry about the negative 3. I'm going to take 3 times z is 1, equal to 4. So x plus 3 equals 4, subtract 3, x is 1. So what is my solution? 1, comma, negative 3, comma, 1, x, y, z.